Christian professors across China summoned to learn advanced socialist culture. U.S. lawmakers to urge auto CEOs to cut China reliance. In many residential areas of China, the ground suddenly subsided. People did not dare to go home. Where are China's exports going? Less and less to the U.S. CCP's media outlets are maintained by its organizations and affiliations. In early June, all Christian professors across China were summoned to Beijing for a mandatory course on Marxism and Xi Jinping's thoughts. The course title was Training Course for Key Teachers of Christian Theological Schools, held at the Central Institute of Socialism. According to Bitter Winter, in this course, Christian professors must study the core Marxist principles, the 20th National Congress of the CCP, and Xi Jinping's thoughts on a new era of socialism. The Central Institute of Socialism was founded by the CCP in 1956 under Mao Zedong. The mission of this school is for non-CCP members to train in Marxism. Deputy Director General of the China Christian Council and Director of the Theological Education Department, Pastor Lin Manhong, chaired the closing ceremony. He said the course helped Christian professors absorb the needed advanced socialist culture. The CCP used the so-called Three-Self Church to strictly control Christianity in China. In the closing ceremony, Lin said Christian seminaries affiliated with the Three-Self Church would promote ideological and political teaching and research groups with experienced professors as leaders. Lin also notes that the sinicization of Christianity means that teachers and students in Bible colleges should raise their political awareness and actively study CCP documents, especially those of the 20th National Congress. A bipartisan group of lawmakers visited Detroit on June 20th to urge automakers to cut their supply chain dependence on China. As Bloomberg reported, the group included Mike Gallagher, John Molinar, Raja Krishnamurthy, and Haley Stevens, all members of the House Select Committee on China. Among those whom they met were Ford Motor CEO Jim Farley and General Motors CEO Mary Barra. The visit aimed to raise concerns about China's role in the company's supply chain, particularly electric vehicle batteries. For example, Ford's planned battery factory in Michigan is a joint project with Chinese supplier Contemporary Amperex Technology, or CATL. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin has criticized it as a Trojan horse that empowers China to weaken the U.S. auto industry. As sources disclosed, the legislators see that CATL has received significant funding from the Chinese Communist Party, which gives it leverage to outshine U.S. peers. They also have concerns about CATL technology, which they believe was sourced from U.S. educational and commercial organizations. Another issue would be human rights, whereby companies will be pressed to ensure they are not using Uyghur forced labor in Xinjiang province to source car parts. In recent days, subsidence in many densely populated areas has occurred continuously. On June 7th, a video went viral on Twitter showing the ground in the Changqingteng residential area in Yantai High-Tech Park, Shandong Province, suddenly subsided, and residents did not dare to return home. The video revealed the communist regime forced house prices in these places to drop by 70%. Since then, the quality of the housing has dropped dramatically. House prices have not yet decreased, but the quality of houses has already reduced. The video shows a building's foundation had subsided and walls cracked, but experts said it's temporarily habitable. The natural gas pipeline has been deformed and stopped supplying gas. People are evacuating to prevent explosions and collapses that can happen at any time. A notice from the power supplier in Shandong on May 16th stated that the ground on the east side of building number 1 of the Changqingteng residential area had naturally subsided, causing damage to the above-ground and underground gas pipelines. Suppose the foundation of the construction site east of Building 1 is dug too deep. In that case, it will cause specific geological effects, which may exacerbate the risk of ground subsidence and cause irreparable damage to the gas supply pipeline network. Previously, on May 31st, large-scale ground subsidence also suddenly occurred in a residential area in Jinnan District, Tianjin. Cracks appeared in the road, buildings tilted, and people were evacuated urgently. As of 2100 hours on June 3rd, 3,899 locals have been evacuated. They were forcibly relocated for more than 10 days. Reports say that officials have yet to learn how these people will be resettled, what remedial measures will be taken, and when the resolution will be. Residents involved in the Tianjin incident are now fighting to protect their rights. According to the latest news, some areas in the community have begun repair work, but people do not accept this simple modification method, so conflicts arise. A video shows cracks in the foundation and ground filled with new soil. Many police officers violently maintain stability at the scene. One Weibo user said, "Tianjin Country Garden in Tianjin has subsided. The owners are currently homeless. There is no way to complain, and public opinion is suppressed." On June 5th, another ground subsidence occurred in Jinxiu Jiangnan community in Wanzhou District, Chongqing. The main road between buildings 6 and 7 of the community suffers from a subsidence of about 65 feet or 20 meters across and 6 to 10 feet deep. Currently, owners of buildings near the collapsed road have evacuated. A video shows the middle of a high-rise building cracked. The road in front of the building has sunk for a long time, and the foundation of the building is exposed. Some netizens said, nearby residents heard the crash. The relevant officials said the preliminary assessment stated that the building would not be affected. Listen to them and we all die. After the land subsidence incident occurred in residential areas in Tianjin and Chongqing, netizens left messages. The terrible thing is that the sky has not fallen, but the earth has already begun to subside. Tianjin, Chongqing sank, and the next ones are unknown. That is God destroying the CCP. People need to understand the nature of the CCP. As for the CCP officials, they are all good at eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling. Do they have the ability to do anything for the common people? Just like the CCP, they are incompetent and have ruled for decades. Now I am speeding up to the crematorium. Due to increased supply chain reshoring, China's exports to the US have dropped for 10 consecutive months. This trend is expected to continue in the future. South China Morning Post reported that the US was China's top export market last year. However, it was the third in the first 5 months of this year, behind the European Union and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. According to a report from Everbright Securities in March, with the supply chain relocation trend intensifying, China's exports to the US could continue falling in the short term. China can offset losses in industries it dominates, such as textiles, by diverting shipments to intermediaries in Southeast Asian countries and setting up operations near Monterrey, Mexico, and other close-to-the-border cities. According to figures from the Office of Textiles and Apparel under the U.S. Department of Commerce, in the first 4 months of this year, 20.9% of textiles and apparel that the U.S. imported were from China, down about 4 percentage points from 2022, and almost half of the total seen a decade ago. But for industries in which the US and Europe dominate key technologies, such as some electrical and mechanical products, the American reshoring efforts will have persistent implications for the overall export sector in China. The Chinese share also fell to 26% in the first 4 months of the year, from 30.3% in 2022 for mechanical and electrical equipment and machinery, which make up more than 40% of all Chinese exports to the US. The report said, in the short term, the contribution of exports to the economy has weakened, and economic recovery should mainly focus on the recovery of investment and consumption related to domestic demand. It added, in the medium and long term, high-tech products should be the key to maintaining China's export advantage. Kearney, a Chicago-based management consulting firm, said, however, no single country can fully fill the void left by China. A variety of low-cost Asia-Pacific countries, such as Vietnam, Cambodia and India, and Mexico, can benefit from the shift. The CCP requires organizations and affiliated units at all levels to subscribe to its media publications and periodicals. However, many of these agencies have made tacit internal arrangements with the delivery agency not to receive those newspapers. Toutiao today revealed that a government agency has agreed with the private post office to ask them to refrain from delivering these types of publications to the agency. After the post office receives the newspapers, they will be stored directly in the post office's warehouse. After a specific time, the post office will treat them as paper waste. These waste newspapers are sold to businesses that collect and process recycled paper. The tacit agreement also stipulates that a part of the money from selling the waste newspaper will be returned to the agency, plus a small amount of the postman's salary saved by the post office. In this way, the unit avoids the hassle of receiving, storing, and selling these waste papers, and recovers a part of the postage. The image shows forgotten stacks of newspapers in the warehouse of a certain state-owned unit in Guangdong, which subscribed to them at 50,000 yuan. The article quickly made netizens excited. They left many comments. Some said that these newspapers and journals were mercilessly abandoned. The CCP's newspaper and journal will close if the subscription is not mandatory. Although Toutiao reports that this information has not been confirmed, netizens claim it reflects reality. However, the related article was deleted after a few seconds of publicity. On January 17th of this year, the Ruijin city government of Jiangxi province issued the Notice of Conscientiously Doing Good of newspaper subscriptions to important party newspapers and periodicals by 2023, which requires all agencies and units to complete the so-called 9 newspapers and 4 periodic registration tasks. CCP-affiliated agencies must not only subscribe to party newspapers and publications, but also make this an achievement report.